as if week one wasn't exciting enough, we get to wrap things up towards the end of week one with USC and LSU. These are two teams that expect to compete for a college football playoff spot, maybe even a national championship, and both have new quarterbacks that are going to run their systems. USC and LSU are names that everyone knows. And I think this is a great week one matchup that can answer some questions about both of these teams. USC comes in with an 8-5 record from 2023. After having Caleb Williams, it feels like that was kind of a disappointment. This is a group that averaged nearly 42 points per game offensively, but gave up 34.4. And we all thought that a defensive coordinator change was needed 2 years ago, but Lincoln Riley obviously didn't think that. And fortunately for USC, finally, his hand was forced, had to fire Alex Grinch. Now you bring in a new coordinator in D'Anton Lynn and a new staff that you feel more optimistic about heading into 2024. LSU had one of the most explosive offenses, well, actually the top scoring offense and top producing offense in college football, had the Heisman Trophy winner in Jaden Daniels, as well as two wide receivers that are now in the NFL, two first round picks, and they're all gone. Now what do you do? Fortunately for LSU, they've been recruiting at such a level where you feel pretty confident about what they can do in 2024. We'll dive into that here in this preview, and we'll see what both teams are capable of doing. LSU is currently a 4.5 point favorite. The over under is set at 63.5. So that tells me that we should expect some points. That tells me that USC has a little bit more work to do, but that's not due to a lack of talent. You have certain things that are going to need to play out. And this is going to be a fun game. I think this is going to be a back and forth game. And there are plenty of questions with both teams. There are plenty of exciting things with both teams. The burning question for USC is Miller Moss ready to run the show? Taking over for Caleb Williams was never going to be easy for anybody. Miller Moss gets that opportunity, and we saw what he did in the bowl game, but you also can't put a ton of stock into that bowl game. You still saw his potential, you saw what he's capable of doing. He played with a number of those players that are going to play with him this year. And I think that you're going to see some really intriguing things. It's also a Lincoln Riley quarterback, so you kind of have to put some weight into that. And it feels like this is going to be a really fun year for USC. You're playing in the Big Ten, so that's going to make things more difficult. And the quarterback positions are going to be the battle here. Miller Moss and Garrett Nussmeier both inherit really good offenses, and I think that are both going to have really exciting years, but they're taking over for elite quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels won the Heisman last year. Caleb Williams won the Heisman 2 years ago. Both are in the NFL. Both were first round picks. That's really exciting for both schools, but now you have to move on. Miller Moss probably has less excitement coming in than Garrett Nussmeier, but I think both are in good systems where they feel like they're in a good place. It's kind of, both have their questions, both have their exciting things, but I think that they're playing offenses that will help them and showcase a lot of talent that are going to make them really fun to watch. The LSU question is going to be, can the defense step up? I think that this offense is expected to be good once again. Maybe not to the level that we saw last year, but I think that there are less questions about what this offense can do than what the defense can do. The defense, obviously, there's a reason why they moved on from their defensive coordinator. You're bringing a new guy to run the show, and you're hoping that that means good things. Now, the players to watch for LSU, obviously, Garrett Nussmeier is going to be that guy. Garrett Nussmeier has one of the best arms in college football. He is someone who showcased his talent in the bowl game, just like Miller Moss did. And we'll see what happens when he gets a full year of experience. Playing in the SEC is obviously a difficult task for any quarterback. And you hope that you have the players returning or even coming from the transfer portal that make your life easier. Kyron Lacy gets a chance to be that guy. He was the third best wide receiver for LSU last year with 558 yards and 7 touchdowns. Also bring in CJ Daniels from Liberty in the transfer portal. So you have players that are going to be really exciting to watch at the wide receiver position. The pass catchers will be good. Mason Taylor's coming back at tight end. So it's not a lack of talent. That is a question. The offensive line, loaded. I think that's going to be one of the best offensive lines in college football this year, and that's going to make your life a lot easier. On the defensive side of the ball, you have some more questions. This is a defense that gave up over 34 points per game. You need to get better. And it's a reason why you make a change at the coordinator position. and you also bring back talent, I should say, that is going to be really exciting. Now, the defensive tackle position is one to keep an eye on. You lose your starting two defensive tackles. That's going to be something where this LSU team must find their new faces and who's going to be those guys. But you also have talented players coming back. Guys like Harold Perkins are going to be fun to watch. Harold Perkins has a bright future in the NFL, and it'll be fun to see what he can do in this new system. LSU needs him to be good. LSU needs their defense to be better if they're going to make a run this year. USC kind of faces certain similarities, but there are also some different things. Miller Moss is the player that everybody is going to watch. He is someone that, again, I don't know if he necessarily brings the most hype. Well, I should say he doesn't. But after that bowl game, people are talking about Miller Moss more than they did if Caleb Williams would have played in the bowl game. So that I think helps his confidence level. I think that he feels really good about knowing the system and knowing what he needs to do to be successful. And he has plenty of talent to utilize downfield. Zach Branch is coming back, a guy who can be used in the rushing attack, in the passing attack, as a kick returner. Lincoln Riley is going to find ways to get him the football. We saw him in, I feel it feels like it was a brief period of time that we saw his explosiveness, and I'm hoping that we get an expanded role for him even more than we saw in 2023. Deuce Robinson is a big target downfield. Again, USC brings a number of talented players that are going to make Miller Moss's life a lot better, and that makes this game more intriguing because I really like what Lincoln Riley can do even with a new quarterback. Now, the defense is really where everybody is going to focus their attention. Last year was terrible. The last couple of years have been terrible. The USC defense has not been what we've expected, and that's been disappointing. Everything gets flushed out now. You have a new coordinator in D'Anton Lynn coming in. You have certain players coming back that will benefit from his tutelage, and that's going to make this group better. Now, it's not going to fix everything. This is not going to just be a year in which everybody just figures it out and puts it all together, and this is one of the best defenses in college football. But I think you see drastic improvement from what we saw last year. Mason Cobb comes back at linebacker. He's really fun to watch. If Eric Gentry can find a way to bounce back, he has a bright future, a little bit on the slender side, but someone who is definitely athletic enough to make plays. And then I think a guy to keep an eye on is Bear Alexander. Now, there obviously was some off-season drama with him that was sounds like it was made up, but he is a tremendous talent. I think that if he can find a way to be more disruptive, when you look at what D'Anton Lynn had at UCLA, he had guys that were ready to compete at an NFL level. If Bear Alexander can prove to be that guy, then especially up front, USC's defense is in business. This is a team that's going to face a lot of explosive offenses, some very physical teams, and that's going to make their life difficult. But if you have the guys up front that can handle that, that changes things. Now, we're not predicting this game. We have a video coming out later this week that's going to predict those games, every single game in week one. So make sure you check that out. But we can say this: if USC's defense takes a step forward, I like their chances to compete with LSU. If not, LSU probably feels like they're going to run away with this one. Now, LSU has their own concerns. If the offense can't gel right off the bat, this could take some time. I have a feeling this is going to be a back and forth game. I will say that about that. I think that both teams have certain things they need to figure out. When you bring in new quarterbacks, unless they have just a difference in them, they have that different level of play that they can reach into, a different bag that they can dip into, then I think this is going to be back and forth. Both quarterbacks need time to get acclimated to the 24 season. You have a new offense, you have new playmakers, and it's going to be interesting to see what they can do after having this whole offseason off. It's week one. Things are going to take some time, which is why I think this game's back and forth. But if it is, that means that we're going to see a very intriguing game between two offenses that should be really fun. And there's going to be plenty of NFL talent on the field. So that should give us a great way to hit the end of week one of the 2024 season.